I never imagined that a quiet Thursday evening could turn into the most terrifying night of my life. The kind of night where every shadow seems to watch you, and every sound makes your heart jump into your throat. I was walking home, tired from work, my mind already planning the warm comfort of my small apartment, when I noticed him. At first, I thought it was just another street patrol, but something about the way he moved, too deliberate, too cautious, sent a chill down my spine. He stepped out from the shadows like a character from a bad dream. Uniformed, badge glinting, hand on what looked like a gun, he called out to me. "Evening, sir, can I see your ID?" His voice was smooth, authoritative, almost too perfect. It should have been reassuring, but it was not for me. I froze, fumbling in my pockets. My instinct screamed that something was off. The uniform wasn't right, the patches were slightly askew, the badge looked cheap, almost like a prop from a movie, and yet the fear it inspired was real. My heart was pounding like a drum echoing through the empty streets. "Step aside," he ordered, his tone dropping into something harsher. "You're under arrest." I blinked. Arrest for what? I hadn't done anything. And yet there he was, advancing toward me, confident in control, as if the entire world belonged to him. My mind raced. I had heard stories of fake cops, people impersonating officers to rob, manipulate, or intimidate unsuspecting citizens, but I never thought it would happen to me. I took a cautious step back, raising my hands, trying to appear compliant. "Wait, I haven't done anything, you have the wrong person." He smirked, a cold, calculated smirk that didn't reach his eyes. "Don't play smart with me, step aside or I'll have to handcuff you." Panic surged through me. I could run, I knew that. But what if he had a real weapon? What if one wrong move cost me my life? My survival instincts screamed for caution, but my mind knew I couldn't let this man control me, not completely. "Sir," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I want to cooperate, but I need to know your badge number, your department." He cut me off, voice sharp as a blade. "I don't have to tell you anything, you're coming with me now." Something inside me snapped. Fear transformed into determination. I realized that if I just obeyed blindly, I could end up in a nightmare I might never wake from. I needed help, real help, and fast. "I'm calling my lawyer," I blurted, my voice trembling but firm. That seemed to unsettle him just for a fraction of a second, long enough for me to notice the subtle shift in his posture. He wasn't expecting that. Most people panic, most people comply, but I had a secret weapon, someone who didn't play by his rules. "Lawyer," he scoffed, "do you really think that'll stop me?" "I don't think I know," I said. My fingers danced over my phone, dialing the number that had become a lifeline for me more times than I could count. And then, just like that, the line connected. "Hey," I whispered, trying not to draw attention, "I need you here now." On the other end, the calm, steady voice of my lawyer reassured me. "Stay calm, don't make sudden moves, tell me everything." The fake cop's eyes flickered, catching the movement of my hand holding the phone. His smirk faltered slightly. He wasn't used to people who had backup, who had someone to fight with them in the legal arena. He was used to fear, obedience, silence. I could see it now, his confidence was cracking, but it wasn't enough. He lunged forward, trying to grab my phone. My instincts kicked in. I twisted, barely dodging his reach, and shouted, "Back off." Passers-by started to notice, but the streets were mostly empty. It was almost as if the city itself had conspired to leave me alone with this predator. Every instinct in my body screamed danger, but I held my ground, my hands raised, my voice steady. I wasn't going to be bullied, not tonight. Then came the moment that changed everything. The fake cop reached for what looked like a gun, but he hesitated, noticing the intensity in my eyes, the resolve. That hesitation, brief as it was, gave me the split second I needed to keep my phone clutched tightly. "Sir, this isn't necessary," my lawyer's voice came through, firm and commanding. "Step away, or I'll make sure the authorities know exactly who you are and what you're doing." I saw it then, a flicker of fear cross his face. I had spoken to him before. My lawyer wasn't just any attorney, he was the one who had taken down a corrupt system time and again, the one who never lost. And now, by mere mention of his name, this man realized he had chosen the wrong target. "Step back," my lawyer continued, voice unwavering. "You're impersonating an officer. If you lay a hand on him, your life is over legally." For a moment, silence fell. It was thick, suffocating, and charged with electricity. The fake cop was weighing his options, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. He had planned this carefully, thinking no one would challenge him, thinking no one could fight back. But he hadn't counted on me, and more importantly, he hadn't counted on the lawyer who had built a reputation for destroying people like him. I felt my pulse slowing slightly, adrenaline still coursing but no longer blinding me. I was alive, and for the first time I had the upper hand, not physically but strategically. "You've made a mistake," I said, my voice steady now, carrying more power than I thought possible. "You picked the wrong person, you picked the wrong lawyer, and now you're going to pay for this." He took a step back, uncertainty overtaking the arrogance that had defined him so far. That was all the confirmation I needed. I was no longer a victim, I was a fighter. And tonight, the battle wasn't just about me, it was about exposing the lies, the deception, and the audacity of someone who thought they could manipulate fear like a weapon. Then, just as I thought the confrontation might end, he smiled, a chilling, calculated smile that made my skin crawl. "You think this ends here," he hissed. "You have no idea what's coming." I tightened my grip on my phone, knowing my lawyer was listening, ready to intervene, but there was something in his tone that told me this wasn't just about arresting me, this was personal. Somehow I had crossed the wrong path at the wrong time, somehow my existence had threatened him, and somehow he wasn't done. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows that danced across the asphalt. I felt the night close in around us, and yet I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of him, not of the danger, because I had something he underestimated: knowledge, preparation, and an unwavering ally in the form of my lawyer. Then, before I could react, he lunged again, not at me but at something behind me. I barely caught the movement out of the corner of my eye. My heart jumped. Was it a weapon? A partner? I didn't know. All I knew was that the game had just escalated and the stakes had become deadly. I could hear the faint sound of footsteps echoing, fast and deliberate. My mind raced. This was no longer just about intimidation, it was about control, power, and the thrill of fear. He wanted me to run, to panic, to make a mistake. But I couldn't, not now, not ever. "Stay calm," my lawyer's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "I'm coming, don't do anything stupid." And then, for the first time, I realized the magnitude of what was happening. This wasn't just a random encounter with a fake cop. This was the beginning of a battle that would test every limit: my courage, my intelligence, my very will to survive. And it had all started with a simple, terrifying sentence: "You're under arrest." The tension was so thick, I could barely breathe. The fake cop's eyes never left mine, but I could see the cracks in his composure. He hadn't faced anyone like me before. And he certainly hadn't faced someone whose lawyer was known for turning the tables on predators, fraudsters, and liars alike. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't predict, was just how far he would go. Just how desperate and dangerous someone impersonating authority could become when they realized they had underestimated their prey. The night stretched on, long and merciless. I could hear sirens in the distance, or maybe it was just my imagination, a cruel trick of fear. My legs ached from standing still, from the adrenaline that refused to release its grip. My hands were clammy, my mind racing through every possible scenario. And then he spoke again. "You'll regret this," he said, voice low, dangerous. "You think your lawyer can protect you, think again." I swallowed hard, not out of fear but in preparation. I knew this was far from over. And in that moment, I realized that survival wasn't just about strength or speed. It was about outsmarting someone who thrived on deception. That's when I noticed it, the faintest flicker of something in his jacket. Something that didn't belong, something that confirmed all my fears and suspicions. I couldn't yet see it clearly, but I knew one thing for sure: the night had just begun. And I was about to learn that fighting a fake cop wasn't just a test of courage. It was a test of wits, strategy, and the courage to face someone who believed they were untouchable. This is where Part 1 ends, setting up the suspense, the stakes, and the mysterious threat. Part 2 will pick up immediately from this cliffhanger, escalating the tension and introducing the deeper layers of deception, danger, and legal cat-and-mouse action. The faint flicker in his jacket sent a jolt of fear straight through me, but I couldn't let it control me. My breathing was measured now, deliberate, even though my heart was hammering against my chest. Every second counted. One wrong move, and this encounter could turn deadly. "Step away from me," I said again, my voice louder this time, not just for him but for anyone who might be nearby. My eyes never left the glint in his jacket, the metallic flash that made my stomach twist with dread. He hesitated, and that hesitation was all I needed. "Are you threatening me?" he asked, trying to regain control, trying to sound like the officer he was pretending to be, but the shakiness in his voice betrayed him. For the first time, he was nervous. "I'm warning you," I said, shifting slightly to position myself between him and the possible weapon. "One more step and I'm calling the cops again, real cops this time." He laughed, a short, brittle sound that didn't reach his eyes. "You really think they'll believe you?" "Try me," I said. I could feel my phone pressing against my palm, a lifeline in the chaos. I dialed quickly, keeping my eyes on him. "My lawyer is here. He knows exactly what you're trying to do. I've got witnesses if you make a move." The mention of my lawyer seemed to shake him more than anything else. I could see it in the slight tremor of his hand, in the way his jaw clenched. He hadn't counted on me having someone who could legally destroy him if things went wrong. And now he was starting to panic, the veneer of authority slipping away. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he hissed. "One call and you're finished. You think your lawyer can protect you from what's coming." I didn't flinch. I had prepared for this. I had thought about every possibility, every angle, and now I was living it. "You picked the wrong person. You picked the wrong lawyer. You're done." The words hung in the air like a promise, and for a brief moment I saw him weigh his options. He could run, he could fight, he could abandon the game entirely, but he didn't. He wanted control, he craved it. And that's when everything escalated. He moved suddenly, faster than I expected, reaching for the glint in his jacket. Panic surged through me, but I didn't have time to react physically. My mind raced, every scenario running in rapid succession. Was it a weapon, a knife, a gun, or something worse? Before I could move, he lunged, and then a sound split the night, a whistle, sharp, commanding. He froze mid-motion like a predator caught off guard. "Hands where I can see them," a deep, authoritative voice shouted. I turned slightly and saw the flashing lights of a police cruiser around the corner. My stomach twisted with relief, but the fake cop didn't see it the same way. His eyes widened, fear finally overtaking arrogance. "Stay back," he yelled, but his voice was shaky now. The cruiser stopped a few feet away and a real officer stepped out. The presence of authority, the uniform, the calm confidence, it was like a flood of relief washing over me. The fake cop's bravado evaporated instantly. "You're under arrest," the real officer said, looking directly at him, "for impersonating an officer, intimidation, and assault." I took a step back, my knees weak. My body was shaking, but it wasn't just from fear, it was the adrenaline, the relief, the realization that I had survived a situation that could have ended badly. "You have no idea who you're messing with," the fake cop spat, backing up slowly, trying to maintain some semblance of control. But it was gone. The game was over. I looked down at my phone. My lawyer's voice was calm but filled with pride. "Good, hold tight, don't say anything more than necessary, let them handle him." For the first time, I allowed myself to breathe. But the night wasn't over. There were questions to answer, consequences to face, and a story that needed telling. The real officers cuffed him, reading him his rights. I watched silently, the tension in my shoulders slowly easing. My lawyer's advice rang in my ears: stay calm, stay observant, and document everything. I knew then that this man wasn't just a random impersonator. There was planning behind his actions, a history of audacity and manipulation. And if he had been bold enough to target me, it meant he had done it before, and might do it again if not stopped completely. The officers began asking me questions, taking my statement. Every detail mattered: the glint in his jacket, the way he approached, the words he used, the exact phrasing of his threats. I recounted everything, my voice steady now, narrating the horror and the fear with clarity and precision. "Do you want to press charges?" one officer asked. "Yes," I said firmly. "I want justice. I want this man held accountable for every lie, every threat, every moment of terror he caused." The fake cop, no, the criminal, looked at me, eyes filled with a mixture of fury and disbelief. He hadn't expected this. He had expected fear, submission, silence. He had expected me to crumble, but I hadn't, and now he would face the consequences of underestimating someone like me. As I watched him being led to the cruiser, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, vindication, and an unshakable awareness that life could change in an instant. One moment I was walking home, minding my own business, the next I was fighting for my freedom, my safety, and my dignity. The officers advised me to stay put while they secured the scene, and I called my lawyer again. "He's caught?" I asked, voice trembling but filled with relief. "Yes," came the reply, "but this isn't over. You need to be careful. Someone desperate can still cause trouble. I'll stay with you until this is fully resolved." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. The words were reassuring, grounding me. I wasn't alone in this fight, and that made all the difference. But then, a thought crossed my mind, one that made my blood run cold. If this man had been bold enough to impersonate an officer, to confront a complete stranger with threats and intimidation, what else had he done? Who else had he targeted? How many lives had he disrupted with his lies and fear? I realized that I had just scratched the surface of something far larger, far more dangerous than I had imagined. And while tonight had ended in my favor, I knew the ripple effects were just beginning. The officers returned, confirming that the man had a history, minor convictions, harassment complaints, and reports of impersonation, but nothing that had truly held him accountable. That explained his audacity, his confidence, his belief that no one could touch him. I shivered, a chill running down my spine. This wasn't just about one night. This was about uncovering a pattern, exposing a fraud, and ensuring that no one else fell victim to his lies. My lawyer arrived shortly after, eyes scanning the scene, assessing, calculating. "You did everything right," he said, voice calm but filled with intensity. "You followed procedure, you stayed alive, and you didn't give him the satisfaction of fear controlling you, but now comes the hard part." "What's that?" I asked, tension returning as reality sank in. "Legal proceedings," he said. "We need to ensure he faces the full extent of the law. We need evidence, witnesses, documentation, and we need to make sure he can't manipulate this system again." I nodded, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and determination. The night had been harrowing, but it had also awakened something in me, a resolve to stand firm, to fight back, and to ensure justice wasn't just a word on paper but a reality for anyone he tried to harm. The fake cop was taken into custody, protesting, shouting, and threatening. But I didn't flinch. My lawyer stayed by my side, guiding me through every step, ensuring that I didn't say or do anything that could jeopardize the case. As we walked away from the scene, the city lights casting long shadows over the pavement, I realized the enormity of what had happened. I had faced a predator, someone who thrived on fear and deception. I had survived. And I had done so because I had been prepared, informed, and backed by someone who knew how to fight in the world of law and justice. But even as relief washed over me, a new fear emerged. What if he had accomplices? What if this was just the tip of the iceberg? The thought made my stomach churn. I knew I couldn't let my guard down, not now, not ever. And then, just when I thought the night had finally ended, my lawyer turned to me, eyes serious, voice low. "You need to understand," he said. "He picked the wrong lawyer, but he didn't pick the wrong target entirely. Someone wanted you to be scared, someone wanted you to make a mistake, and they're still out there." I froze. The weight of his words sank in like a stone in my chest. The danger wasn't over, it had only evolved, and if I wanted to survive and protect those around me, I needed to prepare for what came next. The fake cop had underestimated me, but now I knew one thing with absolute certainty: he was just the beginning. The words my lawyer had spoken kept echoing in my mind as I tried to sleep that night. He didn't pick the wrong target entirely. Someone wanted you to be scared, someone wanted you to make a mistake. I stared at the ceiling, wide awake, heart still racing. The adrenaline hadn't fully left my system, and every creak of my apartment made me flinch. I realized that my encounter with the fake cop was no random act. It was deliberate, calculated, and chillingly personal. The next morning, I met with my lawyer in his office. The room smelled faintly of old books and coffee, a comforting scent that made me feel slightly more grounded in a world that had suddenly become frighteningly unpredictable. He had laid out files, photos, and statements from the previous night on his desk. "We need to be thorough," he said, scanning the papers. "This man is not just an impersonator, he's part of a network. There are others, and we need to uncover them before they find another victim." I leaned forward, my anxiety mixing with determination. "What do we do first?" "First, we secure your safety. Cameras, secure doors, monitoring. You can't take any chances," he said. "Then we start digging. Records, surveillance, reports of impersonation, threats, harassment, anything that links him to other incidents. And we do it quietly. If they catch wind that we're investigating, they might vanish before we can act. The hours that followed were surreal. I watched as my lawyer meticulously went through surveillance footage from nearby streets, cross-referencing it with police reports and social media posts. He explained every step to me in a calm, precise manner, turning a terrifying night into a mission I could follow and understand. I felt a strange mix of fear and empowerment. I wasn't helpless anymore. Then we found him. Footage from a small corner store showed the fake cop weeks before harassing a young man in the parking lot. He wasn't in uniform that time, but the gestures, the aggression, the intimidation, it was him. The cashier had hidden behind the counter, too scared to intervene, and the man had complied, terrified. My stomach turned. This wasn't an isolated incident. He had a pattern, and I had unknowingly stepped right into the middle of it. "We're not just going after one man," my lawyer said. "We're going after a system of fear, and you became the person who finally stood up to him." A sense of responsibility settled over me. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for anyone who might be caught in his web of lies, threats, and impersonation. Over the next few days, my lawyer and I worked tirelessly. Each lead we followed brought more pieces to the puzzle. People who had been threatened, intimidated, or manipulated by someone claiming authority. Stories of fear and compliance of people too afraid to speak out. And all of them connected somehow back to him. The more we uncovered, the more dangerous this felt. He wasn't just bold, he was meticulous, intelligent, and willing to do whatever it took to maintain control. Every encounter we discovered showed a man who thrived on fear, who manipulated authority as a weapon, and who underestimated the wrong person, me. One evening, as we were reviewing yet another surveillance clip, my lawyer paused the footage. "Look closely," he said, pointing at the screen. The fake cop was talking to someone, another man dressed casually, handing him an envelope. The exchange was subtle, almost invisible, but the tension was unmistakable. "Someone's helping him," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Exactly," my lawyer replied. "And that means we're dealing with more than one person. There's a network here, and they won't stop until they feel threatened." A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just about fear anymore. This was about power, control, and a hidden world I had never known existed, and somehow I was in it. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed every detail from the encounter, every word, every movement. I analyzed it from every angle, thinking about what could have gone wrong, what could have been avoided, and what I could do if they came back. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with strategy. I knew I had to be smarter, faster, more vigilant. Days later, the fake cop's court hearing arrived. I wasn't sure what to expect. Would he show remorse? Would he try to manipulate the system again? Or would he remain the arrogant predator I had confronted? The courtroom was quiet, tension hanging in the air like a storm ready to break. My lawyer was calm, collected, every step measured, every word deliberate. He had built a case that left no room for manipulation, no loopholes for deception. When the fake cop entered, his eyes scanned the room, landing briefly on me. There was a flicker of recognition, fear maybe, but he masked it quickly with a smirk. He still thought he was in control. But he was. The hearing began, and the evidence we had gathered was presented meticulously. Surveillance footage, witness statements, previous complaints, all laid out in a narrative so compelling, so undeniable that even he couldn't contest it. I sat quietly, heart pounding, as the judge reviewed the materials. My lawyer whispered to me occasionally, giving reassurance, but I could see the tension in his eyes too. He knew this man was dangerous, and he knew that any misstep could have consequences. Then came the moment that made my stomach twist. The fake cop tried to speak, tried to manipulate the story, to turn fear into sympathy, to lie his way out. But my lawyer was ready. Every claim was countered, every lie exposed, every manipulation dismantled in real time. "You've underestimated us," my lawyer said firmly, eyes locking with his. "You picked the wrong target, and you picked the wrong lawyer. You're done." The courtroom was silent for a moment, the weight of those words sinking in. He realized finally that his control had ended, that his manipulation had failed, and that justice, real justice, was unfolding before him. But the danger wasn't entirely gone. The flicker of an envelope, the network, the possibility of accomplices, it was still out there. And I knew that surviving this encounter was only the first step in a battle that might continue long after the courtroom doors closed. Outside, the city was quiet, but inside I felt the adrenaline still coursing through me, the realization that my life had changed forever. I had faced fear, confronted deception, and survived, and in doing so I had uncovered a hidden world of manipulation and control that I could never unsee. As we left the courtroom, my lawyer turned to me. "You've done well," he said, "but this is just the beginning. Be vigilant, be aware, and always remember you're stronger than they ever imagined." I nodded, understanding fully the weight of his words. This wasn't just about one night, one encounter, or one fake cop. This was about navigating a world where fear was a weapon, deception was a tool, and courage was the only shield. And I knew deep down that I would face whatever came next with eyes wide open, prepared and unyielding. The courtroom was behind me, but the weight of what had happened didn't leave my shoulders. The fake cop had been exposed, his lies dismantled, and yet the sense of unease lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. My lawyer had been right, he hadn't acted alone. Someone somewhere was still out there, watching, waiting for a chance to strike. That evening I returned home to find my apartment unusually quiet. Too quiet. I locked the door, double-checked the windows, and sat down at my desk, heart still racing. My lawyer had insisted on precautionary measures, cameras, alarms, even a small panic button hidden beneath the desk. I pressed my hand against it, feeling its presence, a small reassurance that if danger came, I wouldn't be defenseless. I turned on my laptop, scrolling through emails and messages from the past few days. Some were concerned neighbors, some were news alerts about similar impersonation cases, and some, my stomach sank, were from people connected to him, threatening, cryptic, daring me to push further. I swallowed hard. They were testing me, seeing how far I'd go. The next morning, my lawyer called. "We've traced financial transactions," he said. "There's a trail leading to multiple accounts, shell companies, even donations under false pretenses. He's been funding his schemes for years systematically, and it's all connected to other impersonators, other threats." I felt a chill. It wasn't just one man, it wasn't just intimidation. It was a network, a carefully concealed operation, and I had stumbled right into the middle of it. "You'll need to be careful," my lawyer continued. "This isn't just about legal proceedings anymore. You're dealing with people who thrive on fear. They've underestimated you once, they won't hesitate to try again." Days turned into weeks. Court dates, police reports, and meetings with my lawyer filled every waking hour. I kept replaying that night, the fake cop, the glint in his jacket, the moment he realized I wasn't an ordinary victim. That split second had saved me. That split second had turned the tables. Then the call came, my lawyer's voice calm but urgent. "We've got confirmation. The man you confronted has accomplices planning something. They're tracking you." Fear rose in my chest, cold and sharp, but it didn't paralyze me. I had survived worse. I had survived someone who had thought they could control me, manipulate me, intimidate me. I had survived because I refused to be afraid, because I had the right ally, and because I had courage I didn't know I possessed until it was tested. We implemented full security measures: cameras on the street, motion detectors inside my apartment, constant communication with law enforcement. My life became a game of vigilance. Every sound, every shadow, every knock at the door was scrutinized. The fake cops network had underestimated me, but I would not make that mistake twice. One night, the doorbell rang, sharp, sudden, echoing through the quiet apartment. My heart leapt. I didn't move immediately. I reached for the panic button beneath my desk, fingers trembling slightly but steady. "Who is it?" My lawyer's voice came through the phone, calm, instructive. "I don't know," I whispered. "Do not open the door, describe them, stay calm." I peeked through the peephole. Two men, casually dressed, waiting, talking quietly. One glanced toward the camera. My stomach twisted. They were reconnoitering, testing, planning, but they didn't know I was ready. I reported it immediately. Within minutes, police arrived, surrounding the building quietly. The men were caught before they could act. My lawyer's strategy had worked flawlessly. We weren't just reacting, we were anticipating. The next few weeks were a blur. The fake cop and his network were dismantled piece by piece. Accomplices arrested, financial trails frozen, threats documented. Each victory brought a mix of relief and exhaustion. I had survived, but the scars, the mental, emotional ones, were real. Fear leaves marks that time doesn't erase easily. One afternoon, after yet another court hearing, my lawyer finally sat across from me, leaning back in his chair, eyes steady. "You've done something remarkable," he said. "Not just for yourself, but for everyone else he could have targeted. You stood up when most would have cowered. You fought strategically and intelligently, and you survived." I nodded, unable to speak immediately. The weight of what had happened pressed down on me, but there was pride too, pride that I hadn't let fear dominate me, pride that I had refused to be a victim, pride that I had found strength in the darkest night. But the most profound lesson, the one that would stay with me forever, was this: courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to face it, to act, and to protect what matters even when the danger is real and present. Weeks later, the trial concluded. The fake cop was sentenced, his accomplices convicted, and the network effectively dismantled. Media coverage highlighted the case, praising the courage of the victim and the tenacity of the legal team. My life, once overshadowed by fear and uncertainty, slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. Yet I was changed forever. The world was not as simple as it once seemed. People were not always what they appeared. Authority could be faked, trust could be exploited, and danger could lurk in the most mundane places. But knowledge, preparation, and courage, these were shields no one could take away. One quiet evening, I stood by the window looking at the city lights. The adrenaline was gone, replaced by reflection. I thought of that night, the fake cop, the fear, and the moments when I could have faltered but didn't. I thought of my lawyer, unwavering, meticulous, and fierce. And I thought of myself discovering a strength I hadn't known I possessed. The doorbell rang again, my heart skipped a beat. But this time I didn't flinch. I didn't panic. I walked to the door, confident, aware, ready. There was no one there, just a note slipped under the door. I picked it up, reading slowly. "You've won this round, but remember, nothing stays hidden forever." I felt a chill, but I smiled. I had survived, I had learned, and I was ready for whatever came next. The city outside hummed quietly, indifferent to the battles fought in its shadows. But I knew something profound. Fear could be confronted, deception could be exposed, and courage, real, unwavering courage, could turn the tables on even the most dangerous predators. And so I lived on, changed forever, vigilant, prepared, unafraid. I had faced a fake cop who thought he could control me. I had fought back legally and mentally, and I had won. But more than that, I had discovered something far more important: the strength to face darkness and survive, no matter how impossible it seemed. The night had been terrifying, the danger real, and the threats ongoing. But I had learned a truth that no fear could erase. When you have the courage to stand, the wisdom to act, and the right allies by your side, no one, not even someone pretending to be a cop, can ever truly overpower you. And as I looked out over the city, lights twinkling like distant stars, I knew that while danger might lurk in unexpected places, I was ready, always ready. Because courage isn't just surviving, it's living fully in spite of the fear and refusing to let the shadows dictate the story of your life.